Chapter 6. Love is a more wonderful thing than art. "I suppose you have heard the news, Basil," said Lord Henry that evening. "No, Harry," answered the artist, giving his hat and coat to the waiter. "What is it?" "Nothing about politics, I hope. They don't interest me. There is hardly a single person in the House of Commons worth painting." "Dorian Gray is going to get married," said Lord Henry, watching him as he spoke. Hallward started and then frowned. "Dorian!" he cried. "Impossible!" "It is perfectly true." "To whom?" "To some little actress or other." "I can't believe it." "Dorian is too clever not to do foolish things now and then, my dear Basil." "Marriage is hardly a thing that one can do now and then, Harry." "But I didn't say he was married. I said he was going to get married. There is a great difference." "But think of Dorian's birth and position. It would be absurd for him to marry an actress." "If you want to make him marry this girl, tell him that, Basil. He is sure to do it then. Whenever a man does a very stupid thing, it is always from the noblest motives." "I hope the girl is good, Harry. I don't want to see Dorian tied to some terrible creature who could ruin his nature and his intellect." "Oh, she is better than good. She is beautiful. Dorian says she is beautiful, and he is not often wrong about such things. Your portrait of him has taught him that. It has had that excellent effect. We are going to see her tonight, if that boy doesn't forget about it." "Are you serious?" "Quite serious, Basil." "But what do you think about it, Harry?" asked the painter, walking up and down the room and biting his lip. "Dorian Gray falls in love with a beautiful girl who acts Juliet and wants to marry her. Why not? I hope that Dorian Gray will make this girl his wife and love her for 6 months, and then suddenly fall in love with someone else. He would be a wonderful study." "You don't mean a single word of all that, Harry. You know you don't." "If Dorian Gray's life were ruined, no one would be sorrier than yourself. You are much better than you pretend to be." Lord Henry laughed. "But here is Dorian himself. He will tell you more than I can." "My dear Harry, my dear Basil, you must both congratulate me," said the lad, shaking each of his friends by the hand in turn. "I have never been so happy. Of course it is sudden. All really delightful things are. And yet it seems to me to be the one thing that I have been looking for all my life." He was filled with excitement and pleasure, and looked extraordinarily handsome. "I hope you will always be very happy, Dorian," said Hallward. "But I don't quite forgive you. You didn't let me know of your engagement. You let Harry know." "And I don't forgive you for being late for dinner," said Lord Henry, putting his hand on the lad's shoulder and smiling as he spoke. "Come, let us sit down and start our dinner, and then you will tell us how it all came about." "There is really not much to tell," said Dorian, as they took their seats at the small round table. "What happened was this. After I left you yesterday evening, Harry, I dressed, had some dinner at a little Italian restaurant, and went down at 8 o'clock to the theatre. Sybil was playing Rosalind. You should have seen her. As for her acting, well, you will see her tonight. She is simply a born actress. I forgot that I was in London and in the 19th century. I was away with my love in a forest that no man had ever seen. After the performance was over, I went behind and spoke to her. As we were sitting together, suddenly there came into her eyes a look that I had never seen there before. My lips moved towards hers. We kissed each other. I can't describe to you what I felt at that moment. She trembled all over and shook like a white narcissus. Then she kissed my hands. I feel that I should not tell you all this, but I can't help it. Of course our engagement is a dead secret. She has not even told her own mother. I have been right, Basil, haven't I? To take my love out of poetry, and to find my wife in Shakespeare's plays? Lips that Shakespeare taught to speak have whispered their secret in my ear. I have had the arms of Rosalind around me, and kissed Juliet on the mouth. Yes, Dorian, I suppose you were right, said Hallward slowly. When did you ask her to be your wife, Dorian? And what did she say in answer? Perhaps you forgot all about it, said Lord Henry. My dear Harry, I did not make any formal proposal. I told her that I loved her, and she said she was not worthy to be my wife. Not worthy? Why, the whole world is nothing to me compared with her. When you see Sybil Vane, you will feel that the man who could wrong her would be a beast without a heart. I cannot understand how anyone can wish to shame the thing he loves. I love Sybil Vane. I want to place her on a pedestal of gold, and to see the world worship the woman who is mine. Let us go down to the theater. When Sybil comes on the stage, you will have a new idea of life. She will show something to you that you have never known. I have known everything, said Lord Henry with a tired look in his eyes, but I am always ready for a new emotion. I am afraid, however, that for me there is no such thing. Still, your wonderful girl may interest me. I love acting. It is so much more real than life. Let us go. That night the theater was crowded. The heat was terrible, and the huge lamp flamed like a monstrous dahlia, with petals of yellow fire. The youths in the gallery had taken off their coats and waistcoats. They talked to each other across the theater. Some women were laughing in the pit. Their voices sounded too loud. What a place to find one's love in, said Lord Henry. Yes, answered Dorian Gray. It was here I found her, and she is better than all living things. When she acts, you will forget everything. These common people with their terrible faces become quite different when she is on the stage. They sit silently and watch her, then cry and laugh as she wants them to do. She makes them as responsive as a violin. I understand what you mean, and I believe in this girl, said the painter. Anyone you love must be wonderful, and any girl who has the effect you describe must be fine and noble. If this girl can give a soul to those who have lived without one, if she can create the sense of beauty in people whose lives have been so ugly, she is worthy of your love. This marriage is quite right. I did not think so at first, but I can see it now. The gods made Sybil Vane for you. Without her, you will be incomplete. Thanks, Basil, answered Dorian Gray, pressing his hand. I knew that you would understand me. Harry is so cynical. He frightens me sometimes. But here is the orchestra. It is quite dreadful, but it only lasts for about 5 minutes. Then the curtain rises, and you will see the girl to whom I am going to give all my life, to whom I have given everything that is good in me. A quarter of an hour afterwards, Sybil Vane appeared on the stage. Yes, she was certainly lovely to look at. One of the loveliest creatures, Lord Henry thought, that he had ever seen. She stepped back, and her lips seemed to tremble. Basil Hallward leapt to his feet and began to applaud. Motionless, and as one in a dream, sat Dorian Gray looking at her. Lord Henry watched through his glasses, saying, "Charming, charming." But although Sybil looked beautiful, Her voice sounded unnatural. It was lovely, but it was absolutely false. It was wrong in color. It took away all the life from the great Shakespeare's play. Dorian Gray grew pale as he watched her. Neither of his friends couldn't say anything to him. They were horribly disappointed. Yet they knew that the true test of any Juliet is the balcony scene of the second act. They waited for that. If she failed there was nothing in her. She looked charming as she came out in the moonlight, but her acting was very poor, and grew worse as she went on. It was simply bad art. She was a complete failure. Even the common uneducated audience lost their interest in the play. They got restless and began to talk loudly and to whistle. The only person unmoved was the girl herself. When the second act was over, Lord Henry got up from his chair and put on his coat. "She is quite beautiful, Dorian," he said, "but she can't act. Let us go." "I am going to see the play through," answered the lad. "I am very sorry that I have made you waste an evening, Harry." "My dear Dorian, I should think Miss Vane was ill," said Hallward. "We will come some other night." "I wish she were ill," Dorian said, "but she seems to me cold. She has changed. Last night she was a great actress. This evening she is a common actress." "Don't talk like that about anyone you love, Dorian. Love is a more wonderful thing than art." "But do let us go, Dorian. You must not stay here any longer. It is not good for one's morals to see bad acting. Besides, I don't suppose you will want your wife to act. So what does it matter if she plays Juliet like a wooden doll?" said Lord Henry. "My dear boy, don't look so tragic. The secret of remaining young is never to have an emotion that is unbecoming. Come to the club with Basil and myself. We will smoke cigarettes and drink to the beauty of Sybil Vane. She is beautiful. What more can you want?" "Go away, Harry," cried the lad. "I want to be alone." "Basil, you must go. Ah, can't you see that my heart is breaking?" The hot tears came to his eyes. His lips trembled, and rushing to the back of the box, he hid his face in his hands.